I'm Julie Ulrich. I'm an American. I live in France, but I'm here visiting, and I want to talk more about horses. Horses are my life. I love two phases of the work with horses, by far the best, and one is teaching, and the other is training horses. Those parts have given me more joy in my life than anything else I've ever done. And by continuing to teach and continuing to train, I'm trying to give that back to other people so that they can enjoy the same kind of life I have had. I'm a Gemini, and it suits me well in the way of teaching, because there are two distinct things that you have to work on when you're teaching an art. And the first is, any artist, no matter what art he's going to do, has got to learn the form of his art. And until you learn as a rider how to sit and how to use your aids, your legs, your hands, your balance, your stirrup, which they don't teach anymore at all, your whip, your spur, your voice, until you learn how to use these things, you're not able to communicate with a horse. You also have to learn at the beginning how to use your aids in the right timing with the horse, because if you don't have the right timing, again, you're not making sense to the horse. All of these are very important before you can enjoy being an artist. And you learn the basic flat work and maneuvers and movements of dressage, gymnastics, combinations, and methods of improving the way that the horse jumps. These are tools that you use, and these are considered your basic education, like a grade school education for a child. Everyone has got to go to this part of the school and learn the form before they can go on into specialization. My mother was an artist. She loved to draw with crayon, with pastels, with pen and ink, with charcoal. These were her methods but she always dreamed of painting in oil painting. She did a one-man show, and it came out quite well. And my father realized that this was really a sincere interest for her, and he said to her, get a trainer, get a teacher, and take some lessons, follow your dream, and do what you want. And she found Mac LeSueur, who was beside us in Stillwater, Minnesota, and signed up for 6 months of training. He sat her down in front of a great master, a painting by a great master. I think it was Rubens or someone like that. And she had her oils and her brushes and her palette and everything. And he said, you copy that painting exactly and give me back a replica that looks like a photograph of that painting. Oh, she said, that's not art. Art is, I paint this, but with my own expression, and I add my own flavor to it, and it becomes part of me instead of part. No, he said, that's not what, you're not ready for that. You have no right to use artistic license until you can prove that you can handle your tools. Paint that, and I want to look at it, and I should think I'm looking at a photograph of the painting. Well, my mom didn't have much discipline. She stayed the 6 months, but she was very unhappy with that attitude. She wanted to use her own self-expression. She stayed for 6 months. He was right, and it is the same when you're teaching the art of riding. You must, as a teacher, or as a trainer of horses, you must start with a certain basic education. The danger of the basic education, and you see it a lot with grade school kids, is that you ruin the spirit of the young horse or the young child in educating him by making him repeat phrases over and over and over again on a piece of paper, nonsensical memorization. Pretty soon you spoil the instinct that would make a child into a great doctor. You have to be very careful that you don't go overboard or too strongly into form. There was a poet that I always thought, he taught me one thing. I'm sure I wouldn't have liked him. His name was Bukowski. And he was kind of a womanizer, and he drank and he smoked. I think he was a little like Hemingway. He was back in the time of Jack Kerouac. He comes from my generation. And he was a poet, but he had no money, and he needed money. And he wanted to enter a contest. You had to submit a sonnet. Now, a sonnet is a poem with 14 lines, and it has to end with a couplet. And if I'm not mistaken, the couplet has to be in iambic pentameter. At any rate, there's all kinds of rules. And he wrote what he considered one of the best poems of his life and submitted it to this contest. It was returned to him by return mail because they said, the judges of the contest, this is not a sonnet. It doesn't fulfill many of the rules of a sonnet, and it cannot be accepted for this contest. We send it back to you. This is not even poetry. He was furious because it was one of the best things he ever wrote. And he said, and I'm quoting him, when the spirit is dead, form is born. And this pertains to teaching writing. Because when the spirit is dead, one starts to teach nonsensical little things about the hairnet and the way you hold your stirrup. And these things have nothing to do with the spirit between the horse and the rider, which is why we're doing this. Spirit between horse and rider, spirit and enthusiasm, empathy for the horse, imagination in communicating with the horse, imagination in making a program which makes the horse happy and enthusiastic in his work. These are the greater and more important parts of our art. You must use the form that you learn, but you've got to create an atmosphere, an ambiance, they say in France, which brings out the magic of every horse that you ride and the magic of every child that you teach. And if you can't bring that out, then you are teaching form. And this has nothing to do with why we are doing this. It's very important to have the spirit between horse and rider. Rainer Klimke told me that you can teach any horse to do the Grand Prix and dressage. He said if they aren't lame, they can do it. Some of them are beautiful when they do it, and you can show those and compete. Some of them are ugly when they do it, but they might still be enjoying themselves. So the trick is not to teaching the horse the movements of the Grand Prix. The trick is to teach the horse, put that much education in the horse, and come out with a horse that still has that same joie de vivre or spirit that he had as a 4-year-old. You know, you love that foal that gallops across the field with your hat in his mouth and you can't catch him. You love the little 3-year-old child that runs around throwing apples and doing somersaults and flipping around and acting like you love that little kid, and you love that foal, and you love that puppy that has that spirit. And then in the course of educating that child or that animal, you lose that spirit. That isn't education, that's domination. And that is not the kind of spirit that we want in horses. The Arab Bedouin, he sleeps with his Arabian horse in the same tent. He lives with that Arabian horse, and that horse has never done it under saddle class, and he's never won a race, and he's never been to a horse show, and yet the man has empathy for his horse. He lives with him as a member of his family. They have a long-lasting and forever bond. This is what you're looking for with creating the rider and the horse and the spirit between the two. This is the repayment between the horse and the rider that you try to create. We have a lot of teachers of riding in the country, more and more teachers, because it's become a way of making a living. But we don't have enough teachers who are teaching the spirit. We have teachers who are teaching the form. And we need to discuss this between us all. And we need to reward the horse that shows the spirit that is brought about by a good program and a good trainer and a rider who rewards spirit and not just domination. Well, these are my ideas of teaching riding. And because I'm a Gemini and there are two sides to the coin, it agrees with me because I can see both sides. And I know which side is more important, and I know which side must be taught. And I work at both of them, and I make a combination of them, hoping that I come out with the right result in the end. This kind of thinking is maybe not exactly the way you think, but I think we should discuss it. And I think having said it, it will probably make you think about the way that you do it. I look forward to your feedback and to your comment on this. And now that I've said this, I hope you subscribe and press the button and ring the bell or do whatever else you have to do with YouTube. But once you've done that, I look forward to your feedback about this because I think that teachers are the secret to the future of our horse world as we love it. And if we don't have those teachers, we'll lose it. Thank you for watching, and I look back to your feedback.